Welcome to Finding Certainty with your host and U.S. Army veteran, Patrick Lang. Over the next hour, you'll learn from Patrick and his expert guests how to attract more certainty into your business and your life. Now, here is your host, Patrick Lang.
Welcome to Finding Certainty. Today we have a very special guest, a new friend of mine that I'm coming to love. At least I love his cooking, if nothing else, but more I get to know him, Lou Remillard, who is the co-founder and owner of Crepe Expectations, together with his wife, is turning a lot of heads in the restaurant industry. He's won a lot of awards, received a lot of recognition, and he's here today to share his story, both of success and of triumph, overcoming some challenges in his life. I think it's any small business entrepreneur or business owner will tell you it wasn't an easy path getting to where they are. And Lou, your story is no exception. Isn't that right?
Yes, sir. That's the truth. It is a story. I find that we all have them.
Yes, we do. You know, we're pleased to have you on our show today. Appreciate you taking the time to be with us. We have an hour ahead of us here to get to know you a little bit and hear a little bit about your business and why it's turning so many heads. I mean, we all love crepes. I think if you don't love crepes, you're probably going to hell. I'm sure something wrong with you if you don't love crepes. But you're doing some things different in the business world and just in the restaurant world. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that. Most of our listeners are small business owners or aspiring entrepreneurs. And our show, as you know, is called Finding Certainty. And that's a hard thing to find when you're in business for yourself. The failure rate of businesses is enormous. I think it's, less than 10% that lasts more than 10 years. And you've been around for how many years now? How long have you been in business with your business, Crepe Expectations?
We are now working on 13 years, I believe. It's been quite a ride, that's for sure.
Well, you beat the odds and beat those ratios for sure. So I came across you kind of on accident. A friend of mine and I were looking for a place to eat. We happen to be right there in the area. I'm fairly new to Las Vegas. Only lived in Henderson now for about a year and a half. We relocated here from San Diego. And he was staying at a friend's house over off of Eastern Avenue that's right nearby you. And I just Googled to see what was nearby. And I saw Crepe Expectations. And I loved your name, by the way. It's great. Obviously, it's a takeoff of the book. Classic book, right? Great Expectations. And yet I'm also a crepe fan. And so I proposed it to him. He was open to the idea. We met there for lunch. I have been back, I don't know how many times since then. I know everyone
that tends to happen here.
I know you have a lot of repeat business, but before we get into the business and how you've gotten it to where you are and what sets you apart, because I know there's certain things you've done and are doing. Let's talk a little bit about you and about your story. So tell us where you're from and maybe a little bit about your family, if you don't mind, and kind of where you grew up.
Oh, that's a great way to start this. My name is Lou Remillard. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, actually just a little bit outside Atlanta in a place called Conyers. And been out in Las Vegas, I think 18 years now. I had been an executive chef since I was in my early 20s. And I was in a lot of pain living in the South. I have arthritis in my hands, knees, elbows, and hips. And the humidity was really, it was punishing me. And I found myself just in misery all the time. And by recommendation of the doctors, they said, get out of the humidity. And I thought, what better place really for two professional chefs than Las Vegas, Nevada? There's a restaurant here every 15 feet, So
and some fantastic restaurants, right? Yeah, some of the best restaurants in the world here in Las Vegas.
I have been wonderfully, wonderfully blessed to be amongst them. With that, we opened this crepe shop 2011, and Yeah, 2011, and it's gone great guns since then. I spent most of my life chasing a dollar, and that's apparently where a lot of this story starts. Is that as a young man, I was taught quite a bit that your paycheck was equivalent to
your value,
who you are, to your value, to your contribution to society, and that it was all about finding the dollar. It's no matter what it took. It was 85, 90 hours a week working for somebody else. No matter what it was always spent chasing the dollar. And boy, does that lead you into some interesting places. What I think is what you're getting at is I am a recovering alcoholic and gambling addict, and have been in recovery now for 48 months and 8 days.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That is really where the story begins. About a little less than 5 years ago, I found myself deep in addiction, and many times in this industry, small business, especially restaurateurs, find that an escape from the stress of the job. It's a high stress, high volume, high energy, really
high pressure,
quick, just astronomical amounts of pressure.
Right.
And with that, I found myself escaping from the pressures and from the frustrations of work into the solitude of gambling and drinking. Now, for 25 or so years, I drank about 1 liter of whiskey a day, and was a functioning alcoholic, but an alcoholic nonetheless. And with it, I was equating my personal success with that of the business. And as anybody in this industry knows, there are ups and downs with business. And finding those days where I equated myself, my personal well-being with the success and failures of the business, those failures being insignificant at the time, I didn't comprehend the insignificance of them. I found myself running into the bottle and into the bet for the escape of not having to deal with it at that moment.
Yeah.
And
isn't that a common dilemma for addicts? And we've all dealt with addictions of various kinds, some more serious than others. But isn't it so often an escape? It's escape from the pressure, stress, the worry, the overwhelm, right?
The overwhelming feeling, and so many times I found myself making a mountain out of a molehill, out of something that truly could have been handled so quickly and so decisively.
Mm-hmm.
In addiction, it was work, and it just was the compounding stress. Yeah. And with that, the hamster wheel of success and failures were right. Ongoing. Now,
isn't it true that it's a slippery slope too, right? Anyone who's been down that addiction pathway, you don't become a child predator overnight, right? It starts with that first Playboy that you looked at when you were 8 years old. Right? You don't become an alcoholic.
Any kind of addiction. Yeah, I wasn't born an alcoholic. I'm the one, and ultimately, this is joining a 12-step program, which is what I did, and learning how to accept the fact that I am not my business. Separating and compartmentalizing my business and entrepreneurial life to my personal and mental and physical well-being, there was such a correlation of the dramatic rises and dramatic falls that there was never any any kind of balance.
Right.
And the balance is, the balance is what makes what I deemed then as unmanageable makes it manageable today, is finding that even, somebody not showing up to work back then could have just been an end all be all, ruin my moment, ruin 2 hours, ruin an entire day, affect everyone around me, ruin their days. And ultimately, my negative attitude would come out in a negative result at work. Mm-hmm. And again, I just compounded that issue into something much greater than it really was. It was somebody that was sick. They just couldn't come to work.
Right. Stuff happens, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that when you're in an addiction, it's all about me. And finding myself on the other side of this, and now having a bit of a clear glass to look through, per se, I can see the fact that most of the problems that I deemed as problems, they really were quite easily handled, and that was a real big leap forward in my development as an entrepreneur, is separating myself, because my personal life truly isn't my business. Now, my business is part of it. Don't ever think that it is a gigantic part of me, because it is a dream that I chase. It is something that I have wanted to do my entire life. But it's also something that, if I'm not careful, can become an ego trip for me. And again, that leads me down to a dark path where I look for the positive in things today. And if I can keep myself in that positive energy, in that positive light, the more I give that away, the more it just comes back to me by simple law of attraction.
100%. Let me interject, because in my experience, I've found that there's 3 things we can do to avoid the high swings, the high peaks and low valleys. Number one, I heard a great quote years ago that said the level of our frustration is equal to the distance between our expectations and reality. And our expectations are way up here, reality is way down here, then we're probably going to be very frustrated when that employee doesn't show up. But if you know that people get sick, you expect that to happen occasionally. It's more water off a duck's back. The second principle is that our thoughts dictate our feelings. Whatever we're telling ourselves dictates how we feel. And usually the negative thoughts are distorted. We lose our job and we think, oh my gosh, I'm going to be homeless. I'm never going to get another job again. That's probably not true, right? But we tell ourselves those things and we feel those feelings. And then as you're talking about, the light and keeping equilibrium in your life, I think the third principle is that light and dark cannot exist in the same place, right? You flip on a light switch in a dark room and the darkness vanishes. And so it's not enough. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but it's not enough to stop drinking. It's not enough to stop gambling. You have to replace it with something positive. You have to fill your life with those positive influences, those positive effects, the light, as you called it. I think it's a great analogy.
It's an amazing part of this is that in addiction, I spent so much time looking for the light. Everyone talked about at the end of the tunnel, the way out. It's not that I didn't know that I was in addiction. It was that I couldn't get out.
Right. Where do you start? Right. How do you get there?
And that's the thing.
You might have even been able to see the light, but you can't touch it. You can't reach it. It's at the end of that tunnel. You're not sure if it's a train coming at you or an opening, right? That's
where the principles that you were just talking about, that last one you're talking about, that principle behind where it is you were leading is faith. The belief and dumb, blind following to know that it is going to work itself out. It's going to happen exactly the way it's going to. Ultimately, it's the control thing. And you talked about expectations. Expectations, by definition, are control. Control in a form of, I expect you to do this. And if you do not, I get upset or angry, have those emotions because you're not doing what I told you to do. Mm-hmm. That's control. I've now come to a crossroads in the business is to where, okay, if control gets me into trouble, I got to have a little faith. Now, faith doesn't have to be spiritual faith. It can be personal. It can be faith in other people. It can be faith in anything and everything. I have faith when I turn the key on my truck, it's going to turn on, right? So with that, I'm trying to have more faith in my employees that, okay, this is the way I do it. But if you got a better way for you to do it, and this is where it gets tricky, just because I own it does not mean that my way is perfect for everyone else. Right. That was a big thing to accept into life. A big thing.
To your point, there's this juxtaposition between control and faith, and you have to find a balance between the two, because you can't,
that equilibrium.
You don't do 100% blind faith and give up all control. Your business would probably not go like you wanted it to. You can't give up total control, or you can't have total control and no faith, because then you're a micromanager and your people aren't going to be happy and so forth and so on. So it's finding that balance, which I think is so key. And I think there's another piece that, and I see this in your restaurant when we're there, your employees are empowered. I mean, they're excited to be there. They are. I know you've had several there for several years, but I think it's because you put them first in many respects. And I think it's a key to accomplishing anything, but including overcoming an addiction, is you start to look outward and you focus more on others than yourself. As you said, most addicts are very selfish. They're focused on their needs, their wants, their pain even, right? But if you can focus outward, I always say, if you're having a bad day or you're feeling down or depressed, the best thing you can do is serve someone.
Yes, sir. 100. I agree with that 100%. The way I get out of the serious 6 inches, or the serious 6 inches that I find to be the 6 inches between my ears, if to get out of myself, the easiest way to do that is to offer service or help someone else.
Right. It's the best way to overcome ego too.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that it's a practice. It's an ongoing thing.
So we're up against our first break. I always comment on how quickly the hour passes by. I mean, we could talk for 5 hours probably and still not get to it all, but we're having a great conversation with Lou Remillard. He's the owner of Crepe Expectations here in Las Vegas. We're going to go to a quick break and then come back and talk a little bit about your business. I mean, you've received some recognition that's impressive. Your business is growing and you're doing things. We've started touching a little bit on some of the things you're doing that make such a difference in your company. But we'll be right back, whoever it is out there who's listening, and we'll get into a little bit more detail here with Lou on what is working and why it's working so well. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Follow Voice America at Facebook.com/Voice America for juicy updates from your favorite radio shows and podcasts.
Certainty Management can help create more certainty in your life with our deep discount health insurance options, even for 1099s, part-time employees, volunteers, and more. Pay less to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your team. Call 888-684-3122 for a free quote today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at CertaintyTeam.com. That's Certainty, TEAM, like Mary.com.
Enjoying our shows and can't get enough of us? Follow us on Instagram at Voice America Talk Radio and see what we're cooking up for you.
If you're a nonprofit in need of funding, we can help. Certainty Management is a cost reduction firm that also helps churches, schools, sports teams, and other nonprofits raise unlimited zero-cost funding. Best of all, you don't have to sell anything or ask for donations. Call 888-684-3122 to learn more today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at certaintyteam.com. That's certainty, TEAM, like Mary.com.
Tune in to The Soul of Enterprise, Business in the Knowledge Economy, with co-hosts Ron Baker and Ed Kless. Ron and Ed will show you how to recognize that wealth is created by intellectual capital. It's all in the possibilities that we can create and that are created for us. These possibilities are destined to be discovered by human imagination and through the service of others, creating a brighter future for all of us.
The Soul of Enterprise is heard live every Friday at noon Pacific Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time
On the Voice America Variety Channel.
You are listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Lang. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
Thanks for being with us here on Finding Certainty. We're having a lively conversation with Mr. Lou Remillard. And your wife's name is Jenn, is that right?
Jennifer. Yes, sir.
She is your partner in the business, and you're probably your better half, as most husbands would be smart to say. Is that a true? I'm sure that's a true statement in your case.
She and I have been through a lot. As a matter of fact, the truth of the matter is that we got divorced years ago when I was in addiction at the end of it there. And she's more my wife today than she has ever been. The piece of paper didn't seem to change that much. It's the true change and the true relationship started when I started putting my family first.
Absolutely.
Put the bottle down.
Isn't that interesting when we start to realize, you knew you had an addiction, you knew you were struggling with these challenges, as most addicts do, I think, or many at least. Mm. And yet, once you start to look outward and you start to realize the impact you're having, and I think the cost of the addiction, and you truly want to change. There's a lot of people out there who are dealing with addictions, and they want to change. But they don't. It's when we don't know where to start.
Value. I find that I've worked with many people in 12-step programs and fully involved in one actually right this moment. And with that, oh yes, sir, I'm a card carrying member, let's say, and I don't I don't half-ass this. This is something that is really, really important to me. We talked a little bit about it and how I got to it, but the truth is that the program has always been there. The help has always been there. Mm-hmm. I had to personally find more value in getting help and asking for it than I found in the escape. And that's the biggest thing in any 12-step program, in any recovery program, in any addiction is acceptance. I literally have it tattooed across my wrist. The acceptance of the fact that I made some mistakes, but more acceptance of the fact that I'm willing to leave them behind and work on now. Right. We can't live in the past if we keep wallowing and beating ourselves up about simple and dumb mistakes we made in the past. We're never going to take the steps forward for growth.
Absolutely right.
And you were talking about the business itself. Well, the business is just like me. It's an ongoing development. It's not something that I just started and bam, it was huge. It didn't start like that. 12 years ago, it started off as 1,450 square feet, 25 seats. the dream was to do 450 in gross sales and to make a little bit of money and get out of the way. It's a crepe shop that's open 6 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and 7 hours a day on Saturday and Sunday. And most people see a flaw in that business model, especially being in Las Vegas, Nevada, because it's a 24-hour town. Why would you close at 3:00? And the truth is that this leads into what I was just talking about. It comes into the fact of putting my family and myself in front of chasing that dollar that I was talking about.
Right.
We open at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday because my son goes to school at 8:30 in the morning. I got to drop him off. I got to tell him to have a great day. And I come back and I open my business. With that, at 3:00, and I'm the guy that no matter what, if you've been there 10 minutes or you've been there 3 hours, at 3:00, I'm going to ask you to leave my business because my son gets out of school at 3:30.
Right.
And I pick him up and ask him how his day went. Now, before that, I made reference to working 90 and 100 hours a week. I didn't make any more money then than I do now. And today, the quality of life, because I've decided to put the family first, it's an amazing thing. I spent so long chasing the dollar, and as soon as I stopped,
you made more.
Me. Yeah, it found me.
Interesting how that works.
It's amazing.
I want to interject something, if I may, because you talked about faith in the process, right? And I did a monologue a few weeks back. I had my guest who had to cancel at the very last minute, had some technical difficulties, and so I ended up just talking for the whole hour about how we find certainty in our life. The first thing I talked about is we have to believe that it can be achieved, right? We go in with, it's not even faith to start out. It's just hope, right? And then it grows to faith and then belief.
Isn't that symbiotic though? You have to have
You're exactly
hope.
Right. And what's interesting is,
faith.
What's interesting is that this is a universal principle. If you're spiritual, call it an eternal principle. It applies in everything we do, whether it's a business, a marriage, parenting our children, et cetera, et cetera. We have to believe that we can do it first, at least believe that it's possible. If somebody can do it, if somebody's done it, then maybe I can too. And we start that faith
that's
right? It's just
a great way to see that.
Started.
And a great way to lead into this is the fact that what you're talking about is seeing it. Now, I'm pretty stubborn. I'm a compulsive. Like I said, I'm a recovering addict. And with it, I'm a bit of a workaholic. But I'm learning that with faith is not only the belief in anything external, but it has to come from inside. I have to believe in myself, that light we were talking about, chasing and looking and searching for so long, when I actually got still and got quiet, and instead of talking, started listening, I learned that light isn't out there for me to find. It's inside of me.
Absolutely.
With that, that's where the power comes. The power comes from our own light. Now, if I want to keep it, any program has ever taught me that I have to give it away. Because, again, by the simple law of attraction, you give away, you're going to get back the same thing. If you give away the negative, you're going to get back the negative. If you give away the positive, it's going to come back to you. You asked about the business and how it was, or how it's growing. That comes from exactly what I'm talking about. It comes from the top.
Agree.
You walk into my restaurant any day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, sir. You will see me there. I usually don't leave until the afternoon, and usually not until like 2. I try to get out that last little hour, and instead of do that micromanage thing that you were talking about, let them do their job.
Yeah.
Don't stand over and hover and say, you got to do it this way. You got to do it that way. I don't learn anything personally. I don't learn anything by somebody saying, you have to do this. I learn by seeing it. What you were just talking about. It's the visualization. I see in somebody something that I covet or I want or I desire or I admire. And I want to know how they got that. Now, asking for help and being told what to do are two very different things, is in life and in parenting and in business. I try and today to not point and say, you have to do it this way. They have to do this. If I go out and do it and they see me do it, they inherently, and you've seen it personally, they inherently come behind me and do exactly that. Now, I've never had to ask them to do it.
Right. Not only do they do it and they do it well, and you don't have to hold their hand, but they feel more empowered and more valued and more appreciated than they would have otherwise. Now, you made a point a minute ago about using your ears versus your mouth and listening more and talking more. In my monologue 3 weeks ago about finding certainty, I talked about the importance of working with others and finding mentors and surrounding yourself with people who lift you up. Now, you've assembled a really great team, and I want to get into some of what you've accomplished. I mean, you started the company 13 years ago, and you've been on, I mean, you've been on dives.
Yeah, I've been on the Food Network a few times. I've been on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, Takeout, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, Nation, numerous episodes.
Right.
Guys, Grocery
Food
Games.
Network. I mean,
I'm blessed in the fact that I get to do what I love to do for a whole bunch of people. But none of these things come when I was in addiction. None of them came because I wasn't ready. And all of it encompasses this little crepe shop. And as the crepe shop has grown, I find that me and my family and the ones around me, the ones that work with me every day, they're growing as well. And we're all learning together. It's at the beginning, when I was dictating everything, and I had, like you said, these expectations of, you come to work, you do it my way. Here's the list. Here's the procedure. Kick bricks when you're done. That right there is what you were talking about a second ago. They don't find the value in that. They're just a robot. They're just a machine. So I find the better way to do that is to say, this is how I do it. This is what I expect. My way gets it done like this and in this amount of time. Try it out. But if you have a way to do it that works better for you, please verbalize it, because then they feel as if they're contributing to the business itself. And 9 times out of 10, they're right.
Yeah.
No matter how much experience I have, they're right. They do it every single day. I do it every now and then.
It's one of those universal principles, right? When you can help your employees take an ownership mindset. They may not be the owner, but they view the business through the eyes of an owner. What would I do if I was the owner? How could I make it more profitable, more efficient? How can I get this customer to want to come back again and again and again? And when you can get your employees to think like that and look at the business through those kinds of eyeglasses, everything changes.
I'm in a very unique position in the fact that my employees, my family, and truly they are just an extension of my family. If I ever had an emergency in the middle of work, I could literally grab my keys, throw them in the air, and any person that works for me, grab them, and they'll lock the door and be back the next morning to unlock it. Without asking.
And you drive off in your gigantic purple truck
I do have
It's
a
the
big
first thing
burden
I
for-
noticed. I got to tell you, there's two things I noticed when I first came to your place. One was your truck parked out front. It's almost a monster truck, right? Big purple branded Crepe Expectations. And the second thing was you immediately greeted us. You came over and visited us, and you actually told me the story about why you close at 3 with your son. I was really impressed, Lou, because that says volumes about you. And it, in my opinion, it defines why you say you now have more satisfaction in your life and more quality of life than anything else.
It's a simple attitude of gratitude. It's thankful that I get to do what I do. I could be out there humping it for somebody else again. And the truth is I get to live a dream. A, I get to drive my dream truck. I built it. But B, I get to do my dream job. I get to be with the people that mean the most to me. Jenn's with me there. Our son Noah is with us there. He has his own business in the form of his hot sauce bottling company.
Right.
Which in itself, as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, he's 11 right now, having his own business and a successful one at that is a wonderful way to look at something and say, okay, 5 years ago, he was 6 and he wouldn't have wanted to be anything like me. But in the middle of COVID, a boy has an idea to truly make some money when everyone around him is telling him the business is going to go down because the government has shut him down or whatnot. He has the wherewithal to stop and go, okay, if we can't make money doing this, let's make some money doing that. And that right there is remaining teachable, because an 8-year-old little boy just taught a 46-year-old man at the time that it wasn't the end-all be-all terrible situation. It was an opportunity.
Yeah.
It was a chance.
Water off a duck's back, right?
Yeah, it's a chance to do something different. And that something different was to teach an 8-year-old little boy how to create an LLC, how to get a federal EIN, how to get a state tax ID, how to work with the FTC, how to label something, how to copyright, trademark, how to grow a business when everyone was telling him that this is the worst time in the world to ever open a business. That's not true.
What a great experience for him.
Perfect time. And that's with a little boy that wants to look at you years ago and not want to be anything like you, to where I am today, where he looks up at me and wants to be like me. That's real growth. That's real growth, not only in business, but in personal and in relationships as well. Yeah. And that's what the focus has been on. And that's why the business has won the awards. We were voted number 4 of the top 50 restaurants in all of Las Vegas. It's a crepe shop. And you get recognition like that, not because it's just a great place to sit down and eat, but it's a great place to feel at home, to feel welcome, to feel as if you're a part of it. You walk in and you see it being made in front of you. The kitchen's wide open. You're a part of it. And
you make everything from scratch, don't you, Lou? Even
we do. Even the bacon. We do it
incredible. All. You can taste it when you taste it. You know that it's not just off a shelf or something. But
correct.
I got to interject here real quick. We're up against our next break here, but I think the fact that your son decided to do that and you supported him, and he's at an age where he's starting to realize, hey, this entrepreneurial life has some appeal. Maybe I want to be my own boss someday. I just had a similar experience with my son. He's 17 years old. I've tried to talk to him about business and stuff for years, right, when he was younger. And yet this last weekend, I was up in Oregon visiting him, and he and his friends have taken to going to this big music festival that happens every Wednesday night. And they now call it Wiener Wednesday, because they go and they sell hot dogs and drinks and chips to all these ravers, all these, these people that are listening to music. They're the only food provider at the place, and there's hundreds of people who show up. And he's so excited because they'll make $1,000 in a night, right? And
Sure.
it's fun seeing him starting to see things through an entrepreneur's eyes and talking to me about ideas and marketing ideas and how can we cut costs. And anyway, we got to go to break, but that's a really neat experience. I can resonate a little bit with what you're saying with your son and starting to have different kinds of conversations and seeing them grow into that. And you're listening more, right? You're not just doing all the talking. You're actually listening.
Being present.
To our kids, we're present. We remove our ego. We might actually learn something, right?
It's amazing.
Yeah. We'll be right back, folks. We're listening to and visiting with Lou Remillard. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Voice America is on LinkedIn. Connect with us today.
If you're a nonprofit in need of funding, we can help. Certainty Management is a cost reduction firm that also helps churches, schools, sports teams, and other nonprofits raise unlimited zero-cost funding. Best of all, you don't have to sell anything or ask for donations. Call 888-684-3122 to learn more today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at certaintyteam.com. That's certainty, TEAM, like Mary.com.
A little birdie told me Voice America is on Twitter. Follow us at Voice America TRN.
Certainty Management can help create more certainty in your life with our deep discount health insurance options, even for 1099s, part-time employees, volunteers, and more. Pay less to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your team. Call 888-684-3122 for a free quote today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at certaintyteam.com. That's certainty, TEAM, like Mary.com.
Small businesses are in trouble, and it didn't just start with COVID-19. From the recession several years ago to the revolution of e-commerce giants more recently, small businesses are getting hit hard and need to come back. Tune in to Business Buzz and Business Watch. It's 2 shows in one, hosted by Frank Hellring. We'll help your small business bounce back with best practices, guest experts, and resources that you can use to strengthen your small business. Listen Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern on Voice America Business.
You're listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Lang. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
So we were talking with Lou Remillard here, owner of Crepe Expectations, and during the break, we were talking a little bit about his experience with Guy Fieri of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and you've been on his show several times, right?
I have.
I mean, you're one of his favorites, it seems, when it comes to the Food Network competitions, and I mean, he's a fan of crepes, and he's a fan of you, and the fact that you were rated number 4 out of the top 50 restaurants in Las Vegas. I mean, this city has some of the finest restaurants in the world, one of the top chefs in the world. Does it kind of boggle your brain a little bit to think that you're rubbing shoulders with these guys? You know, ego aside, just to think, look at what we've done here.
All ego aside, the truth is that I belong here, and I believe that today. I have the confidence today that I do belong here, and I do that not for the ability to cook or the ability to lead or the ability, but for all of it. It's not an individual little bit of piece. There are phenomenal chefs all over the world. There are phenomenal leaders all over the world. There are wonderful people that are willing to go the extra mile everywhere if I'm staying aware enough today to see it. And you were talking about Guy. That's exactly the kind of person that I'm looking to be. Mm-hmm. When you get at it during the COVID, that man truly gave back to the restaurant industry, the hospitality industry, more than our federal government did.
100%.
Now, with that, he got out of his way so that he could go out, help the first responders, raise money for the veterans, and raise money for these individual little single store mom and pop restaurants across the country. Mm-hmm. He had each individual employees of ours wrote a letter to him, and they received $500.
Wow.
That kind of thing is what I was talking about earlier. That's the example that I need to see, because then I see that and I see what it did for so many other people, but I also see what it did for him. And there is the strength of this, is that when we get out of our own way and start helping others, start giving back to others, start doing the next right thing, it doesn't have to be an enormous feat of his proportion. It just starts with something small. Walking through the parking lot from Sam's, buying groceries for the restaurant, and look over and see somebody that has a couple of cases of water underneath of their buggy, and asking if they mind that you help put it in the back of their car. Mm-hmm. Going and seeing a lady that was parked next to me, had her hood open and didn't know what she was doing. She just needed to change her battery, but she had no idea. Yeah. Take the time. Look, get out of your own way, because I have the time. I have the skill set. And the truth is, when I do that kind of thing will come back. What happens if Jenn's on the side of the road and somebody in a big old gigantic truck with a set of tools that has knowledge drives right on by? Well, maybe I could have prevented that if I would have stopped for the person on the side of the road too.
I agree with that 100%, Lou. You talked about attraction, the law of attraction earlier. I talk a lot about ripple effects, and I think the two come together, right? We know that when we think positive thoughts, when we serve others, when we look outward, when we remove our ego, not only do we feel better, I mean, we've all heard, attitude determines our altitude, but it goes way beyond that. It does have a magnetic effect, and it attracts into our life. It draws into our path more of the same. I completely agree with that. I see it in your life. I see it in your restaurant. Your people seem to understand that too, because they resonate that, or they emanate that every time you come in. Now, I do want to ask you before we run out of time, what's your most favorite dish or most popular dish at Crepe Expectations? I know which one mine is. I want to see if it's the same.
That's funny. It's truly a question that gets asked a lot. The most popular dish is not my favorite. The most popular dish is probably the very first first dish I did on the Triple D. It's the Sonora. It's carne asada, fresh made guacamole, salsa, melted cheese, all wrapped up in a crepe, served with a little side dish of a mixed green salad or a cup of fideo soup. That's probably the most popular.
That's the one my friend ordered when we went out that day.
Truly,
I have a sweet tooth, so see if you can guess which one I ordered.
You have a sweet tooth?
Yeah, I went for sweet. I have had the Sonora, and it's delicious.
Did you go with something like the Lemon Berry Dream or something? That's like
the one with the lemon custard and the blueberries? And oh my gosh, I thought I died and went to heaven.
And that's the fun part about doing that particular thing that I do, is that the menu is broad enough that it literally, you can find something on it that you'll absolutely fall in love with. And that's what's really cool, is that I have watched thousands and thousands of times, people walk through the front door with that negative energy that we were talking about, whether they stubbed their toe, ran out of gas, whatever it is that they
got up on the wrong side of the bed.
Came in the door negative, and by the time they leave, they got this goofy looking grin on their face saying, Lou, I'll see you in a couple of days. That right there is what this is all about. It's about not being successful in monetary gain as much as it is being successful in that spiritual gain. It's about learning that when I'm spiritually fit, when I'm mentally fit, when I'm physically fit, they all mesh together.
They do.
And that
they expand. They get bigger. They multiply. They mushroom.
They grow.
Right? You talked earlier about how when you recognized the importance of looking outward and putting your family first and having balance in your life and all these things, right? That is when your business really started taking off. And you work, a fourth as hard as maybe half these restaurateurs and these chefs working 24/7 and 360, and yet you have this quality of life, and yet you make as much or more than you did when you were working all those hours. Isn't that an interesting? I mean, I'm sure there's a mathematician out there saying this math just doesn't add up, right? How does that work?
The truth is, sir, I make 3 times more than I ever did.
Fantastic.
And with that, it's because I've decided that we're going to live in a way that when we do good stuff, we got to do it for ourselves. I tell everybody that works for me, and this is the most important move. You got to put the oxygen mask on before you help anyone else. That's the important part. People get caught up in saying, okay, to get out of myself, I'm going to try to help somebody else. You got to have it before you can give it away. You can't give away something you don't have. So if you're trying to help someone find peace or find serenity or find certainty, when you're trying to do, you yourself have to have a little bit of that inside of you.
Yeah,
that's truly the reason that I agreed to do this interview to begin with, is that I see that you have an air about you that you are proud for yourself, for the hard work that you've put into your craft, to know that you belong right where you're at. And you asked me a little bit ago, am I a little overwhelmed by it? Certainly. But I have the faith in myself to know that I've put the time, I've put the effort, and I reap the rewards. And
you're
if I put the time and effort into something negative, guess what I'm going to get?
Right. Like I said, you're duly proud. You're justifiably proud because it's not an arrogance thing. It's not
an ego thing today. I'm proud of, yes, the accomplishments of the business, but again, it's the business. The business is going to do its thing. It's going to go up and down.
See, and you don't know this about me, Lou, but I grew up in a family business where we let it consume us. It took hours and hours and 20-hour weeks, my parents traveling all the time and so forth. And it wasn't until we realized that we weren't seeing each other. We weren't spending time as a family. It wasn't until my dad actually got really ill. We spent a year in the hospital with him and realized we'd spent more time there than we had the 5 years before that. And when we were able to step back and incorporate the balance that you now have in your business and give things up and give away the ego and some of the, I wrote a paper about it called From Rags to Riches and Back Again. But it was so valuable for us and our family. It was life changing. And I still, to this day, run my business in that way. I insist on having balance, on trying to keep, to work hard and play hard and make sure I'm available for my wife and available for my kids. And, but I work really hard, but I also learned that lesson as a young child. I'm very grateful for, if we hadn't gone through it, I wouldn't have learned it. Because we learn by failing, right? We learn
right, and that's the thing is there in itself is the truth behind most of my problem is that I was afraid to fail because I was never taught that those failures aren't negative. Those failures are the opportunity we have to grow and learn. And the successes, we don't learn as much from them because we did it. We've done it over and over again. A lot of times we're successful because we've done the repetitive process over and over again, and we've gotten proficient at it. Proficiency is correlated to success in most things. But with this is about the development of our personal selves so that we're able to help the others, so that we're able to set the example. Like I said, putting the oxygen mask on first, that's the reason they tell you that on the airplane, is because you can't help somebody off the floor if you're the one on the floor.
Right. Well, same as love. You have to love yourself. You have to have your own issues taken care of before you can love someone else. You can't love yourself. 100. Can't force someone to be happy. You can't force someone to be in a loving relationship. They have to have it within themselves. One of the best books I've ever read was by a guy named Jeff. Last name is Bear. I'd have to look it up, but it's called Real Love. And it's fantastic. Look it up on Amazon. Last name Baer. And it's about that topic. But where do you go from here? We've got about 60 seconds left. What's the goal for Crepe Expectations?
The goal is to continue to follow my dream, to follow my passion, but also understand that it's mine. And I do have a younger child. And as he grows, to set the example for him and to show him that following our dreams and following our drive and following the thing that we love to do is where we find the real contentment in life. It isn't the dollar. The dollar comes, the dollar goes. This is about finding that oxygen mask for ourselves. And then the world is our oyster. He can grow and do anything he wants to. If he wants the restaurant when he's old enough, then so be it. But I'm going to support him in anything that he chooses to do.
I love that. Yeah. Well, Lou, it's always a pleasure to spend some time with you. I love your restaurant. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thanks for being on. I know you were on with my good friend Ninon de Rosa on her show, Ninon Speaks, just a couple of weeks ago. We both met you in the restaurant, and we both said we got to have you on our show, right? And so, congratulations on your success, and we wish you the very best in the weeks and months to come. Sure, you'll keep on shining and shining more light in your customer lives and lives that you touch. Here on Finding Certainty, we meet with entrepreneurs, entertainers, athletes, and others like Lou that are creating more certainty in their life and in the lives of those they touch. And you're a great example of that, Lou. So thanks again for being here, and I wish you the very best.
God bless you. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode of Finding Certainty. We hope you've gained some more insight into how to create more certainty in your own business or nonprofit. Join us next week for another taste of the Certainty Experience. Until then, we wish you greater certainty in all that you do.